right. Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to Museum of the Rockies, E.L. Wiegand Digital Learning Studio. My name is Ashley Hall. I'm Outreach Program Manager here at Museum of the Rockies, and thank you so much to everyone for tuning in tonight. And I hope we have some real dino fans out there tonight, because that's what we're talking about. Great. So, like they said, I'm here in Bozeman, Montana, and I'm going to jump right in and talk about it and share my screen. But first off, if anyone is an educator or a parent or homeschooler or whatever, I have this brand new digital learning studio. We opened it earlier this year, and it was all thanks to a grant. And so now I'm in charge of virtual learning. And so if anyone there has little ones or continuing ed, we're going to be doing all sorts of programs here through Museum of the Rockies. So hopefully it's not the last time you will see me. All right. So first things first, we're going to jump right into our presentation tonight. So T-Rex, Triceratops, and more, the dinosaurs of Museum of the Rockies. My name is Ashley Hall. I'm a paleontologist and also outreach program manager here. And I am also a children's book author. This is my book, Fossils for Kids. And this came out in 2020. And I have a new book coming out this next March through DK Publishing called Prehistoric Worlds, which is now on pre-order. This is our studio that I'm in. And like I said, we just started doing new programs in the studio. So visit our website at museumoftherockies.org to learn more and to Zoom with us, both as programs that you can request. And also I do a Fossil Friday Live. So if you're interested in tuning into those are every Friday and available on our calendar page on our website. Of course, when you come to Museum of the Rockies, and type in the chat if you've ever been to Museum of the Rockies. I'd love to know if anyone's been to our beautiful museum before. We have a 40-foot long bronze T-Rex that greets you right outside of the museum, whose name is Big Mike. We also have artifacts from Montana, beautiful items and artifacts, especially from our American Indian friends and tribes nearby. Oh, good. We have some people who've been visiting. Yep, Museum of the Rockies. Awesome. Sounds good. And of course, we specialize in paleontology, the study of ancient life. Wow, quite a few of you have been here before. Excellent. This is our Hall of Horns and Teeth that we're going to be talking about tonight as well. And a lot of the beautiful dinosaurs in there. Of course, that's my husband, Lee Hall, who just popped in right before this to say hi. And he is the lab and field manager. So, of course, I don't have to ask you twice, what is paleontology? Well, paleontology is the study of ancient life. And of course, there are so many different things as paleontologists that we can study. My specialization over the years has been kind of across the board. I am a paleontology educator, but by training, I'm also a paleontology assistant curator and collections manager. So I used to work at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. Has anyone been there? In LA, also the La Brea Tar Pits. That's one of my past museums as well. And I gave tours there to Pit 91 and a lot of those beautiful Pleistocene active paleontological sites there on the scene. I was assistant curator of paleontology at the Ray Alf Museum for several years. And then I landed at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, where I was adult programs manager. So I really love paleontology, as you can tell, but I also love talking about it. So in the summertime, I do a lot of outreach to rural communities. And then I also have experience, of course, doing informal education within museums and zoos. Oh, I know what I was saying. So I also have published research publications. I have studied the evolution of birds at Rancho La Brea, and I see that Randy has had a field trip that included the La Brea Tar Pits. That's an awesome site. Glad you got there. And I also have publications on sauropod feet. So looking at sauropod pedal unguals, so the claws of sauropods. And those that paper was in a book called Dinosaur Tracks out of IU Press. And I had a recent publication on ichthyosaurs with Dean Lomax. If you know Dean, he's a great guy. And there was just a new giant skull of a pliosaur that was discovered out of there, which I'm sure some of you have heard about. So I dabble here and there in academia, but me, myself, I'm not in academia worker. I specialize within education in museums. All right, so at Museum of the Rockies, where do we find dinosaurs? Well, at Museum of the Rockies, we actually specialize in dinosaur paleontology within the state of Montana. Montana is such an enormous state, and we really specialize here due to many, many years of work by the former curator, Jack Horner, in the Hell Creek Formation of the Upper Cretaceous. And if you look again, let's go back at the left side, the western side of Montana. We don't specialize in much over here because this is all jumbled up in lots of different colors because of the Rocky Mountains. So here in right down here, mouse is, and we have to drive about 6 or 7 hours to get where the really good Hell Creek Formation outcrops are. So we go out around Garfield County, we go to Jordan, we go to Makoshika State Park, lots of different areas in eastern Montana, as well as our friends at the Carter County Museum, our sister museum. They do the Dino Shindig every year. It's super fun if you can get out there in the summertime. It's usually in July, and it's a heck of a time. All right, so just showing further there, that light green represents Upper Cretaceous. And that's where we go. But not all Upper Cretaceous looks like you'd think it does. So much of Montana actually looks like this. And there's lots of grass, lots of antelope, and it can be very difficult to find fossils there. So of course we go to the Badlands where you can find the dinosaurs. So this is Makoshika State Park in Glendive, Montana, a beautiful, wonderful place for camping, frisbee golf, and of course looking for dinosaurs. And you can see me here. I'm way back here standing on this outcrop. That's me in the hat. We had just gone out here looking at a site, and it's a beautiful, wonderful place, the Hell Creek Formation, despite its name, Hell. So we work with many different lands to excavate dinosaurs here within the state. Museum of the Rockies is a 501c3 nonprofit. And we work with the Bureau of Land Management, which includes national parks. We recently have struck up a survey with Yellowstone National Park. Believe it or not, they actually have fossils, many, many fossils within the park. So we're going to be working there. We work with state land, private land. Private land would be like people's backyards. And this past summer, we were working on a dinosaur in the early Cretaceous in someone's backyard in Montana, which was super fun. And then we also work sometimes on reservation land with our native and local tribes. Our field program has been running for about 40 years and continues to this day. But of course, it started with Jack Horner. So if you know Jack Horner or have seen his TED Talks or met him in person, he's a brilliant speaker. He's an awesome guy and was my mentor actually growing up. I was 9 years old when Jurassic Park came out. And I just think it's just one of the coolest legacies that we have. We at Museum of the Rockies have a really awesome paleontological program now, and I'll see if this plays. If not, I'll give it to you afterwards. Let's see. Hang on. Uno momento. Well, that's all right. It played on my computer. Hang on, maybe one more time. Nope. That's all good. I'll give you guys the link afterwards if you're curious. So before we dive in, does anyone have questions about our field program? I'm going to be talking about a lot of the fossils that we have in the galleries now, but feel free to type in any questions as we go. So one of the most famous dinosaurs that we have here at Museum of the Rockies, of course, is Tyrannosaurus rex. And Tyrannosaurus rex, as Tyrant Lizard King is known, is from the Late Cretaceous period, 68 to 66 million years old, and is a carnivore that is arguably the most famous dinosaur ever discovered, as famously made famous by Jurassic Park. And these are theropod dinosaurs characterized by hollow bones, three-toed feet, and includes many carnivorous dinosaurs and birds today. Now, at Museum of the Rockies, we actually have more T-Rex than any other museum in the world. And one of the most famous T-Rex that we have was called Wankel Rex, which is known as the nation's T-Rex now. This is Jack Horner over here with Wankel Rex as it was found in the ground. Look at that. Amazing, amazing dinosaur. We had it on display here at Museum of the Rockies for several years, and now it is on display at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C. on a 50-year loan. And fun fact about this T-Rex, this was the first T-Rex discovered with a full arm. Here's Wankel Rex as it is at the Smithsonian right now. So this is a picture I took this past summer, and I got to visit Smithsonian for the very first time myself and got to see this beautiful T-Rex now on display, eating for the first time after 66 million years. So we're happy he's getting a meal. Now, Tyrannosaurus Rex over the years has been debated whether it's a hunter or a scavenger, of course, made famous by our former curator, Jack Horner. And of course, we have to look at lines of evidence for that. There is a really beautiful vertebra there. And with that pencil he's pointing to right there is actually a T-Rex tooth that's been stuck right inside of the vertebrae. This vertebrae, though, these are actually two vertebrae that fuse together. We call that a pathology. And that T-Rex tooth in there actually was healed around the bones. So the T-Rex bit into it, and then this dinosaur lived to tell the tale. So this was either a really crazy accident or T-Rex was actually hunting herbivores, which is the case. This is a tooth that's stuck right inside of a specimen we have at Museum of the Rockies. This is inside of a poor Edmontosaurus's nasal cavity. So whether it was a very fashionable prehistoric nose piercing, we don't think is the case, but probably a T-Rex bit right into the skull of this hadrosaur and left it right there for all time for us to discover. So this one we think was probably dead already, and then this animal bit right into its nose. So we think it's both a predator and a scavenger. On display in our galleries, we have one of the only Tyrannosaurus Rex growth series. Los Angeles County Museum actually also has a T-Rex growth series. And the one on display that we have is really awesome because we have a full series of little juvenile. This one right here. So this is a 1-year-old T-Rex that was found by my husband, Lee, in 2010. This one actually was found, the pieces that were found with it are just a little part of the jaw, a few bits of the skull up here, and the whole thing was actually reconstructed by Larry Whitmer of Ohio University. And it was based on Tarbosaurus individuals, so little baby Tarbosaurus, and some other juveniles, but plus also Jane, the T-Rex's skull. So this is Jane. Jane's bones are at the Burpee Museum in Rockford, Illinois. Parts of Jane were also kind of reformed, I guess, to fit this little guy. So the little pieces that we had, baby Tarbosaurus, and then also Jane's skull made this complete skull, which is pretty neat. But what we've been able to tell from all the Tyrannosaurus Rex that we have is that they grew from this kind of lanky little baby all the way to this kind of awkward teenage stage, long snouted. And then you really start to fill out the skull when you get to be the adult. This is B. Rex. B. Rex is the first identified female T-Rex in the entire world, made famous by Dr. Mary Schweitzer. And then this final skull on display, this is Montana's T-Rex, or Pex Rex, that's on display in the gallery. So as a T-Rex, you grew from a tiny little hatchling to a 40-foot long adult in 20 to 30 years, which is pretty darn impressive. Here's an image from Saurian, the video game. If anyone's a fan of video games, this is a really cool one that's online now. It's a very, very accurate game, all about the Hell Creek. And RJ Palmer did this art. This is a really beautiful series of baby and juvenile and subadult. And then in the very back is a full-grown T-Rex. So from tiny baby to massive adult, they grew pretty darn quick. And Sue the T-Rex is one of the oldest T-Rex known and is about 30 years of age. The next most common dinosaur we have is Triceratops. So Triceratops being a giant herbivore of the late Cretaceous, we have quite a few of. And Triceratops, of course, means three-horned face, lived at the same time in the Hell Creek Formation with T-Rex. And we actually have, like I said, the most complete collection of Triceratops in the world. Every single summer when we go out to the field, we are actively searching for and collecting Triceratops to help build our growth series to better help understand these animals and how they grew. Of course, this is our growth series on display at Museum of the Rockies. So if you ever get out to see us, this is a beautiful display that is so wonderful and so unique. We have everything from out of view here is a tiny baby of Triceratops that's about a year old. And then so on and so forth. They get bigger and bigger and bigger this way. And of course, here's me. This was taken in 2020 on the ground here as I just very first started as a baby employee of Museum of the Rockies, and was just in awe of all these beautiful Triceratops. Of course, we study these Triceratops, and we have curator Dr. John Scannella, who was a former student of Dr. Jack Horner here at Museum of the Rockies. And Dr. Scannella, he actually studies Triceratops and has done a fabulous job of it. He uses paleohistology, so studying and taking samples of bone to study the insides of what Triceratops's bone looked like. And by looking at the inside of dinosaur bones, as many of you probably have heard, we can learn all about their growth and even behavior from looking at the insides of their bones. So that's a paleohistology slide. And we have a fabulous paleohistology technician, Ellen Therese Lamb. And Ellen Therese Lamb studies and has done paleohistology for several years. We have one of the world's top paleohistology labs here at the museum. And we do everything cutting, slicing, dicing in-house. She's a fabulous speaker in case you guys need a new one for next year. She would be happy to talk all about paleohistology and the study of it. So we put those samples underneath a microscope and it looks like this. This is polarized light. So this is not the actual color of the bones themselves. The bones themselves, of course, are kind of this chocolatey brown. And when you put that polarized light through it, it helps discern different types of tissue and helps us see those samples a little bit more clearly. So when we look inside of Triceratops's bones, we can actually see if it was a spongy kind of juvenile bone or if it was growing rapidly like this one right here. The cells are being smushed and stretched. They're growing so quickly. And we can tell if an individual is very, very old based on its bone tissue or very, very young. This individual is really, really fascinating. This is Triceratops, known as Yoshi's trike, and MOR 3027 has the longest horns of any Triceratops discovered to date. So if you look right here, the brown on display is the real fossil and the white is the cast or replica. So judging on how this is tapering down, it was estimated that this is the length of the horn. And then of course, on top of this would be keratin as well. So that material that's over the top of a bull horn, right? A cow horn, bison horn would be a few inches past this length even. So this is a stunning individual that we have here on display that was discovered from Montana as well. So our next dinosaur that we have famously here at Museum of the Rockies is Maiasaura. So how many of you have heard of Maiasaura? Type in the chat. It is actually Montana's state dinosaur, a big herbivorous, mainly bipedal dinosaur of the middle to late Cretaceous period with jaws that kind of look like a duck. That's why they are famously called duckbill dinosaurs. And Maiasaura peeblesaurum is a good mother lizard. That's what it was named for. And it was named for the Peebles family that lived on the ranch that we found those bones on. This dinosaur goes back in time. So this is 10 million years older than T-Rex and Triceratops. It's a big herbivore that was 30 feet long. And what's really neat about Maiasaura, it's right in its name, is that it was actually found with its babies and nests all in one area. Now, this area is called the famous Egg Mountain locality. And in 1978, Marion Brandvold, this lovely woman here who lived to be, by the way, 102 years old, she discovered these tiny bones on her property, which is now the famous Egg Mountain locality. And Jack Horner came by when he worked at Princeton University, and he identified them as juvenile bones from a dinosaur that had been found there called Maiasaura. Here's Jack and his buddy Bob Makela, who tragically passed away back when all this research was being done. And there's Jack at Princeton University assembling the very first sort of skeletal parts of juvenile Maiasaura bones into a model. Here's eggshell from the site. This is my hand actually at Egg Mountain just a couple of years ago, as we're still actively excavating and researching up there. And all of the research culminated into several different publications, lots of different graduate students working at the Egg Mountain locality, and this beautiful book that was published in the 80s by Jack Horner and illustrated by the wonderful and fabulous paleo artist Doug Henderson. Doug Henderson lives here in Montana still, so if you're a big fan of his work, you may still purchase and get prints from him. He's a wonderful person. And right now at Museum of the Rockies, we actually have an exhibit right outside of the studio, all of his original prints. Now, what did we learn from Maiasaura? So like I said, Jack and Bob Makela and several of, crews year after year after year discovered that Maiasaura was not only living in that area, but they were nesting in that area. And so these little tiny bones that were found of this baby Maiasaura and several others, Jack studied and saw that they weren't able to stand up on their own. And so these little babies had to be taken care of by their parents, presumably, inside of the nest when they were still, unable to walk. So by looking at the growth of their limbs, he determined that they were unable to stand up as their limbs would be too weak to stand up right away, like a precocial turkey or chicken. And so these guys were like little baby robins, kind of hanging out in the nest, waiting for mom and dad to come back and give them their food. And we're not really sure what they were feeding the babies yet. There's some sort of speculative ideas about maybe the parents having some sort of crop milk, like some pigeons do today. And then also maybe just regurgitating like several other animals do with their babies. Sort of fun to think about. So studies of Maiasaura, of course, revolutionized how we thought about dinosaurs, from slow and sluggish to warm-blooded animals that cared for their young. And of course, thinking about how dinosaurs were sort of these big ruling reptiles that were just sort of careless, that sort of got thrown out the window with the discoveries from Egg Mountain. And by the way, it's so cool because they're right outside the window here. The embryonic bones and the babies and everything are right here in a glass case, like right over by me. And, those were actually the very first embryos found of any dinosaur in the whole world. And so right here in Montana, we can stake that claim, whereas eggs had been found previously. The first eggs were found in France. And since then, it was only 1978 that the very first dinosaur embryos were discovered. So who knows what we can find in the future.
Real quick question, Ashley.
So the Beatrice R. Taylor Paleontological Research Site is still an active location. We go out there every summer, and one of Jack's former students, her name is Dr. Holly Woodward. She's at Oklahoma State University right now. She goes out every single summer and she takes out crews because there's a giant Maiasaura bone bed there, lots and lots more nests, and also not just Maiasaura, but also Orodromius and Troodon, a big raptor-like dinosaur. And there's 553 acres to explore. So we like going out here and hope to have a site out there someday, like a nature center sort of building where people can come and visit. Because right now, the only way that you can come visit Egg Mountain is we do a once-a-year field trip the first weekend of June. So if you're interested in that, it's a members only trip. You can sign up to be a museum member and come out with us if it's like a lifelong dream of going out there. And we're doing it this next year. So it's only accessible with us. So here's the skull of Maiasaura. Maiasaura became our official state fossil because of all the research of Dr. Horner in 1985, thanks to students from Livingston Middle School. So this is what it looked like when it was a full-grown adult. Here's that ducky beak. So the next dinosaur, we're going to go even further back in time, is Deinonychus. And Deinonychus means terrible claw. This was an early Cretaceous dinosaur that lived 115 to 108 million years ago. And this one really revolutionized as well how we view dinosaurs. So nowadays, our vision of Deinonychus has changed as research of feathered dinosaurs has evolved and has grown over the past few years, with discoveries in China with feathered dinosaurs and even large tyrannosaurs like Tyrannus, which is the size of almost a full-grown T-Rex, but it has fluffy down-like feathers that were discovered on it. So now our view of feathered dinosaurs, of course, is extended to the raptors. And we know for sure that raptors had feathers. So they look a little bit different than our Jurassic Park friends. Deinonychus was first excavated by paleontologist John Ostrom in 1964, and it was reopened, this quarry, by Jack Horner in 1993. So there's the two of them standing together, such an iconic photo. And I hope to go out there someday. It's not too far away, but what a cool outcrop and really beautiful kind of rusty oxidization out there. So raptors like Deinonychus, of course, helped inform the appearance of the Jurassic Park raptors. So here is your classic Jurassic Park raptor. And of course, you can see how that claw informed Jurassic Park raptors in the kitchen. One of my favorite scenes of this movie. Another big theropod that's famous here at Museum of the Rockies is Allosaurus. And Allosaurus, this specimen known as Big Al, Big Al was recently renamed as Allosaurus jimmadensii. And it literally means Jim Madson's different lizard. So this was separated from Allosaurus fragilis as its own thing, I believe last year, maybe the year before. It's been a blur after 2020 a bit. And this is a late Jurassic period dinosaur, of course, from the Western US, not only Montana, but Wyoming and down in Utah. And we have the most famous specimen of Allosaurus on display, named Big Al, and it was featured in the very classic Walking with Dinosaurs from BBC. And here's one of my favorite images of Allosaurus walking into the feet of these giant sauropods. Big Al at Museum of the Rockies is not old and dusty. We're actually still researching Allosaurus to this very day. Last year, actually, around this time, we took it to get CT scanned at the local hospital. And boy, that was a lot of fun, because it's always fun when you get to bring a dinosaur to a hospital and get to make everyone's day by, not bringing in someone for a scan of their leg or something, but to bring a 150 million-year-old dinosaur was a lot of fun. So we took Big Al in to get rescanned. We scanned some of the pathologies on its body. And Big Al is really known for having a ton of pathologies. As a big top predator of the Jurassic, this animal sustained a lot of damage to its body, whether it was from intraspecific or, combat with other dinosaurs or the same dinosaurs. We're not really sure. But it has a heck of a lot of injuries on its body. And its skull is really beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful skulls you'll ever see. You can see the eye right here, and then here are the holes in the front of the face, of course, and then the teeth are really beautiful. They're all aligned. And more research, like I said, is going to go on with its head. This just in, I wasn't able to bring it up today, but we did just get a 3D print of Big Al's brain. So that's sitting down in my office right now. And there's going to be some more studies, I think, about that upcoming. So being a top predator, he's got lots of injuries. So here we've got a broken and rehealed rib, this nasty knot right here. And then, of course, this giant, painful looking toe pathology, which caused the animal to be extremely not good on its feet. You know, it was probably walking with a limp, probably feeding off of carcasses wherever it could get it. And many more studies to come. Like I said, there's a lot to study about this animal. It's a really cool specimen. Now, in the Jurassic as well, Allosaurus, like I said, was living with animals like Diplodocus. And here at Museum of the Rockies, we have some really cool Diplodocus on display. And this Diplodocus means double beam for the shape of its vertebrae. They have two processes on their vertebrae, and they're from the late Jurassic period. Their long, slender teeth acted like a rake, whereas other sauropods had different shaped teeth. And so imagine a giant rake just raking along the branch and stripping off leaves. And the thing that I always like to tell people is they weren't chewing at all. So whereas we can, really chew those plants and chew our carrots and our salad, these guys were not chewing at all. They were just stripping the leaves off and swallowing them whole, which is why we find gastroliths, or some of those stomach stones, within the bodies of these sauropods. Now, at Museum of the Rockies, we have the Mother's Day Quarry, which is this site. Excavated in 1994, has over 2,500 bones from almost 15 individuals of Diplodocus. The animals were thought to have gotten stuck originally in mud, but after analysis, it was determined that, from looking at the geology, they were all deposited in one area during a drought, and then kind of flooded into a, sort of big jumble after a monsoon event. This site, by the way, is still being worked. It was worked last summer by Elevation Science. So if you want to go out with them, I believe they're still actively digging at this site, as I was able to visit them in Red Lodge, Montana last year. Of course, Diplodocus is with lots of other different long-necked sauropods in the family, in the sauropod family. So there's lots of different ones. There's dwarf sauropods and the biggest sauropod, Patagotitan, and there's lots of different options for sauropods. Of course, they have sort of the similar body plan, which all has a long neck and a really big body and a really super tiny head. At Museum of the Rockies, we have this really amazing piece of Diplodocus skin on display. And my intern earlier asked me, is this a cast, or not a cast, but is this an impression or the real skin? And this has yet to be determined. So in dinosaur science right now, when we have skin, it's either an impression or the fossilized skin. And if it's fossilized skin, we might even be able to figure out if it had melanosomes, or those pigment-containing organelles inside of it. So hopefully someday we can learn the color of some of these non-avian dinosaurs. So here's a piece of art from this little guy from Andy Atuchin, and he has fabulous art. So we know that Diplodocus had some pretty scaly skin. They weren't feathered, but looked more like a classic scaly dinosaur. Of course, what's next at Museum of the Rockies? So I've introduced you to a lot of our famous dinosaurs here that just barely scratches the surface. Of course, we have Daspletosaurus horneri, we have Ankylosaurus, we have Hipparchosaurus, oh my gosh, Eryctodromius. We have a ton of different dinosaurs here, but one thing I really wanted everyone to know is that our fieldwork continues every single summer. So if you are interested in joining us for a summer, we don't have any formal way of advertising it. It's kind of, if you know, you know. And so if you'd like to come out with us, you're welcome. Of course, we also have our friends at the Montana Dinosaur Center up by Choteau, Montana, and they have data digs as well. So you are welcome to come out with them at any point during the summer, and they do have signups on their website. And again, that's the Montana Dinosaur Center. Of course, we have year-round fossil preparation projects going from previous paleontological sites. As you know, there's only so much that you can prep out after one collecting season, because we are racing against the clock of geology. So, every single summer we go out, we collect as much as we can, we bring them back, and then it takes a long, long time to prepare. So if you've ever heard about discoveries being found within museum collections, That's why, because we have a huge backlog of bones and casts, and I'll show you a picture in a minute of our collections, because we have so much that we have to go through, and the process of collecting can be faster than the process of preparation. So recently we just brought on a temporary fossil preparator sort of contract to work on a new discovery of a ceratopsian skull that we had earlier this summer. And so she's working on that. And we have currently in-house, we have about 3 or 4 paid preparators and a lot of volunteer preparators, and only so many stations. So even if we had, you know, room for 20 preparators, it would still take us a long time to get through that backlog. Of course, we are connected with Montana State University. We are a Montana State University entity. So we are not a county museum. We're not a private museum. We are a university museum. So that's really cool because we can train students year round and have interns through our very popular undergraduate paleontology field program. So if you know any young people who want to jump right in, they know they want to be a paleontologist, please send them to Montana State University. It's one of the only places that you can major in paleontology as an undergraduate. This picture, by the way, is at a site in Maiasaura State Park last summer. That's my husband there with a white hat, his students in yellow, and we have a visiting researcher or two there. And then we brought our education team out to see what this dig was like as well. Here's our paleontology collections, just one view of our massive collections. This is a group of high school students that we were taken through to introduce to the giant backlog, the endless possibilities within paleontology. And so you can see there we have massive shelves with lots of different plaster jackets, just like many other museums, and we're working through those every single day. And then we have a brand new state-of-the-art paleontology laboratory that was finished just this year. We implemented a brand new dust collector system that was installed this year to improve the health, of course, of all the lab staff and volunteers. So you can see those blue arms reaching down. Those are part of the dust collector system. They go up into that silver piping and then into a giant machine that then collects the dust, and we can empty it out. It goes into like a giant vacuum. And so silicosis, when you breathe in silica, prepping fossils is a really dangerous thing. Even just the tiniest amount of silica can cause scarring in your lungs. And it's not something that is good. It's not very good for your lungs at all. It can cause scar tissue and health effects later on in life. So we were able to get this done over the past 3 years, and now we have a beautiful lab. And we have a good lab upstairs as well. We just renovated the upstairs lab. So the Bozeman viewing laboratory is now equipped with a dust collector system as well. So that's my husband sitting in there, very proudly posing for this photo after he had installed everything. And again, this was a 3-year project. So it took a lot of time and energy and effort and working with Montana State University to convince everyone that dust is bad. Dust is not what you think of when you think of like household dust. It's not made of, skin cells and gross, things like that within your home, cat hair, dander, all that kind of stuff. It's actually silica dust. So we can't just clean and wipe down every once in a while. We have to have these professional dust collectors at each station where our preparators are. And these can come up and down as people are working on their specimens. So in Montana, we hope you come out and see us because we have a ton to see around Montana. We have what's called the Montana Dinosaur Trail, which is one of the coolest things I've ever heard of. It's actually a series of museums around the state that you can visit that are all in alignment with their beliefs and their regulations for collecting. And we all sort of springboard off each other. We all meet and we talk. And if you visit every museum on the Dinosaur Trail, you can get a really special prize, a very, very special prize that I don't even know what it is because it's just that special. It's only given to those who complete the Dinosaur Trail. Of course, if you're camping in the summer, I recommend Maiasaura State Park. Again, the Montana Dinosaur Center and our sister museum, the Carter County Museum in Ekalaka, Montana. And of course, there are fossils near you in Minnesota. So look at a geologic map of your state. Y'all are really good for that to see what kinds of things you have in your state. And I know a lot of paleontologists within your state, and you guys have a lot of cool fossils. So if you're interested in more resources, we have a lot on our website if you want to learn more or send, like I said, educators to our website. And with that, I'd love to take any questions. Thank you very much. All right, 10 minutes for questions.
You have no time limit, by the way.
I see Sandra raised her hand. All right, so go ahead and are we utilizing the chat box, gentlemen? Is that how we're asking questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, people can type in their questions or they can do them verbally too. If you, I see some people do have their hands raised.
Yeah,
Mark,
feel free to do either.
Mark, you can speak if you would like.
No, I think I raised my hand by mistake. I was clicking trying to figure stuff out. Never mind.
Okay. Sandy, did you have a question? You had your hand raised. Well, I have a question. You showed those eggs of the Maiasaurus. How big are those eggs actually? How many inches across?
Of Maiasaura?
Maiasaurus, yeah.
So Maiasaura is about, so their eggs are about this big. So about the size of a, I want to say an emu egg, really, really similar in size. And they're not elongate like a lot of theropod eggs. They're sort of roundish. Oh, and I brought something really special to share with you as well. So I'm going to go to my ceiling camera, as I have brought this fabulous fossil. This is from our Egg Mountain locality. And can you take a guess as to what this is? Let's see if anybody knows or can guess what this thing is. I'm going to zoom in. All right, here's zooming in. This is from our Egg Mountain locality where our nests of Maiasaura and Troodon have been found. And any guesses as to what this is? These are really well studied up there.
Coprolite?
Yeah, very good. Is that Randy? Great job, Randy. So this is a coprolite from Maiasaura. So up at Egg Mountain, these are all over the place. And the biggest one that I was ever able to see was about the size of, well, I'll just show you. About this big. So when these giant animals were nesting up there, they weren't leaving their nests because, predators can come around and eat their eggs and their babies. And so much like seabirds today, they were actually just like defecating around the area. So there are these big piles of coprolites all over the place, and they're extremely well studied by paleontologist Karen Chin out of UC Boulder. And let me see if I can focus this again. So what Karen discovered about these coprolites is that these black pieces, these are actually pieces of rotten wood interspersed with lots of other vegetation. And what she discovered was that this wood was already rotted by the time that these dinosaurs ate it. So a really fascinating discovery on her part was that she was finding these already rotten pieces of wood within the coprolites that had already been decomposed by mycelium, so from mushrooms. And she was looking at why do animals eat rotted wood? Well, it turns out for these animals, it was a lot easier to digest. And also because it was sorted by the seaway, they may have been able to also ingest things like crustaceans, which were found inside, and like insects, and imagine like big rotting wood, right? You're able to get a little more protein when you have some critters living in it too. So there were snails and other animals found inside of their poop from being inside of that wood. All right, questions? All right, Mike and two others hands raised. If you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead. You can type it in if that's easier. If it's hard, sometimes it's hard to find the mute. Oh, you know what? I'm seeing there's a Q&A box. Hang on a sec. There we go. Okay.
Hey, Mary Helen, you can unmute.
All right. So Leanne says, can you go back to the 4 sites slide? I didn't get all of it written down. The 4 sites. Let's see. 4 sites. This one? 4 site slide? Yeah, there we go. So that's Montana Dinosaur Trail, Makoshika State Park, Montana Dinosaur Center, and also the Carter County Museum. All right, Mike wants to know, and I can see Mike's answer right now. So we have, do you have any fossils with soft tissue? Absolutely, we do. So our most famous dinosaur with soft tissue is known as B. rex. B. rex is the first known female Tyrannosaurus rex. There we go. And B. rex is really fascinating in that when it was discovered by Jack Horner's former field hand, Bob Harmon, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago now. But when that specimen was discovered, part of the femur was actually broken. And Dr. Mary Schweitzer of North Carolina State University, now retired, is back in Bozeman, but she was there and she started to look at the femur and notice that there was an interesting look, I guess, to the bone. And she eventually discovered through her research that it was not only a special type of tissue inside of the femur, but it was medullary bone. And the medullary tissue ended up meaning that this dinosaur was female, because that's the type of tissue that female birds lay down when they're laying eggs so that they can have a resource for calcium. And so she discovered that this dinosaur died at the time of egg laying, was a female, and then also through her research discovered the very first soft tissue of any dinosaur in the world. And so she was the discoverer of actual, spongy, stretchy tissue inside of dinosaur bone. And so look up Mary Schweitzer's work. She's fabulous. She's a research associate here at the museum. And she has since then replicated her soft tissue research time and time again with several different dinosaurs, and studied the taphonomy, or the depositional environments in which this soft tissue was preserved. So if soft tissue is preserved in dinosaurs, how is it being preserved after 66 plus million years? And ever since then, so since Mary's discovery, other people have been doing it as well. So Jakob Winter has been doing that and looking at pigmentation within the soft tissue of things like mosasaurs and sea turtles, and looking at the coloration of some of these animals. And there is also melanosome research that happens with bird feathers. So some of the Cretaceous birds that have been found in China through the work of Jingmei O'Connor. So yeah, there's lots of soft tissue research. Awesome. And then I think we have some in the in the chat. Sorry, my boxes are separate.
I've also got Mary Helen, Joe, and Mike unmuted, so you can ask your questions.
Yeah, so yes, you can see what's on my desk. So in this room, so when I was in charge of building this room, I really wanted it to look really cool and to be an aesthetically pleasing space, and to inspire curiosity in everybody, because right over here, there's actually a glass window. And this glass window is out to the gallery. And so when you visit Museum of the Rockies, when people walk by, it's sort of like the Today Show. And so it's both aesthetically pleasing from the outside as well as on camera for a lot of our students that we serve. And so on the desk, I'll zoom out and go to my camera here. So for you guys today, I have brought several different fossil specimens. So I have a megalodon tooth here. This is a extremely large megalodon tooth. There we go. Zoom in a little bit on that. I have an allosaur claw. I have, this is a real Maiasaura metatarsal. So this is part of the foot. This is a real fossil. So this would be oriented in the animal like this. And then I also have a velociraptor skull. So this is a cast of a sculpture sort of a velociraptor skull, Velociraptor mongoliensis. And yes, Marlene and Jim are asking if there are velociraptors there. Yes. Of course, we don't find Velociraptor mongoliensis. These guys are from Mongolia, but we have little raptors here in Montana that lived with T-Rex and Triceratops. And then I've got my coprolite. Here's my Maiasaura coprolite full of decomposed wood. And then I've got my ammonite, which has some beautiful calcite crystals in it. So if you're a rock hound like me, I know I'd be really welcome with you guys there. You guys are doing all sorts of cool stuff in the Geological Society, but I love when these guys have chambers that are full of crystals. It's really beautiful. Cool. All right, so that's what's on my desk right now, but it changes all the time. Oh, where was the Maiasaura foot found? So this is the Maiasaura foot bone. So this was actually found up near Choteau, Montana at our site at Egg Mountain. So at Egg Mountain, we have not only embryonic remains and hatchlings, nestlings, babies, adults. We have just about every growth stage of Maiasaura. And there's a bone bed there that, like I said, Dr. Holly Woodward has been working, and she takes students out there more, and she's been able to assemble growth of Maiasaura, so to understand how rapidly they were growing, and they were growing up really, really fast. So that helps sort of validate the hypothesis of warm-bloodedness. These animals were growing like almost a full-grown, adult sizes by the age of 10. So they were growing real quick.
Ashley,
Okay. Yeah.
this is Roger Benepe. I got kind of a question and kind of a request. When I was going to school out in Montana, I was up in Havre at Northern, back in the, let's just say a while ago. I happened to be at the right place at the right time, and I was the one that found the Albertosaurus out on Fresno Reservoir. And it's probably not under my name. It's probably under Vicky Klaus. And I've been told that there is a paper being written about that. And if possible, I would love to get a copy of that.
Wait, tell me more. Was this Albertosaurus?
Yeah, it was Albertosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
And Fresno Reservoir on the south shore. And that was about late 80s, early 90s. And we would excavate it, and then we would bring it down to the Museum of the Rockies.
Interesting. Well, you'll have to type in your name that it might be under, and I can ask our collections manager. I know there was it Gorgosaurus that was just published with the legs in its stomach still? That was really cool. That just reminded me of that.
But I know that we picked up 3 of the 4 jaws and both hind limbs, and they were perfectly articulated.
Awesome. Wow.
So that's my one claim to fame for that.
Thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you my contact information.
Sounds good. Yeah. Any other questions in the Q&A?
In the
Ashley,
Q&A, there is.
Oh, Dave.
Dave, go ahead.
Dale asked the question: are the fossils basically silicon dioxide?
Are the fossils?
Right.
Yeah, so it depends on the type of fossil, but anything that is permineralized, right, with silica is it's part original material, which is why we can study those through paleohistology. So they still have the original bone cells and everything inside, but everything that has been replaced would be replaced by silica. Yeah.
Ashley, Steve Erickson, thank you again for a great talk. Wonderful
Thank you.
tour, and I hope we get some people excited enough to come out and visit you.
Absolutely.
How much work do you guys ever come across as far as mammals at that time? Or is there anything that you've come across with mammals, or the very end of the dinosaur period, the mammals were starting to show up? I don't know if there was any linkage there.
Yeah, so right above the Hell Creek boundary, so at Makoshika State Park, and again, you have to visit because it's awesome. If you get a campground at Makoshika State Park, you can walk the Hell Creek where T-Rex and Triceratops are from, and then you can also go like stand right at the boundary where the dinosaurs went extinct, where the asteroid hit. Not exactly where the asteroid hit, but where the line of iridium, the boundary layer is, the KPG or KT boundary. And so that's just a really awesome bonus of that. But then right above that is the Fort Union Formation. And the Fort Union Formation is known for crocodilians, turtles, lots of petrified wood. If you go to the Carter County Museum in Ekalaka, their whole building is built out of the petrified wood of the Fort Union Formation. And then there's also lots of little mammals and mammal teeth out there. One of my former coworkers that I worked for, Don Lofgren, he's really famously known for multituberculates. So those little guys that kind of look like squirrels right after the dinosaurs died out. And he has been working on Bug Creek for a very long time. So if you look up Don Lofgren, he's pretty well known for that. But yeah, we find there are a few mammals known from the Two Medicine Formation, so where Maiasaura is from. We have Pleistocene stuff out here. We have Renova Formation, which is Miocene. So we have like small horses and turtles and some oreodonts and things like that out here. And then we have a mammoth on display in our gallery. It's called the Lindsay mammoth, and it is evidence of a mammoth that was butchered by humans. So that's a really cool one. Oh, and Daniel, thanks for including Marion Brandfold. Yeah, of course, she's awesome. You met her in a rock shop with your family? That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, what a cool lady. And her son, Dave Trexler, actually works up at the Montana Dinosaur Center, so you can go visit him still.
This
That's
is Mary
awesome.
Helen from Minnesota, and
Mary.
I was wondering, early on you showed a photo of two hadrosaur vertebrae that were fused together in life,
Yeah.
with the T-Rex tooth embedded. Is it safe to assume the vertebrae were fused together as a result of the tooth embedding, i.e. part of the healing process? It would seem kind of unbelievably coincidental to get bitten right where you already have an existing fusion.
Yeah. And I have to find the publication on that one again to look at that, because chances are it bit into the tail that was already pathology. Because I don't see that being caused by the T-Rex tooth itself. You're right.
Well, that's what I'm asking is, wouldn't it make more sense for it to have been part of the healing process than for the tooth to land in exactly the one and only spot that dinosaur had an existing pathological fusion? I'm guessing that would have been healing.
Yeah, and I don't, that one's actually, I gave that as an example, as it's not an MOR specimen, but it is, and I can't remember where the location is. I cite everything I do, except I forgot about that one. So, yeah, the answer is, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
And Joe,
Ashley, this is Joe Newberg. I noticed early in the presentation you mentioned that both Triceratops and Tyrannosaurus only lived for like the last 2 million years of the Cretaceous.
Yeah.
Am I correct in assuming that their predecessors filled in much of the earlier years of the Cretaceous?
Yes. So before T-Rex and Triceratops, so that's what we're looking at. Yeah, so these guys, really didn't live for that long of a time. 2 million years is a long time for anything to be alive. And so before this, so 75 million years ago, we had Diplodocus in the area, and of course, Gorgosaurus as well. But yeah, they're found around the area of Maiasaura. And they look really, really similar to T-Rex. The work from Tom Carr, he's been doing a lot of work on Tyrannosaurs over the years, and it might be anagenesis, where one is evolving into the other one. So maybe Diplodocus is the predecessor to T-Rex. Yeah, there were Tyrannosaurs here for quite some time. And of course, Tarbosaurus living in Mongolia, there's a hypothesis that that basically says that they may have migrated from Asia over to North America. Maybe they weren't here for a really long time. So you have to consult some Tyrannosaur workers for that.
Okay, and then Mike has been waiting with a question.
And Ronald, I see your email. Please send me a continuing education form for this program. Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, final questions?
Mike still there at all? No?
I see Mike's hand up. Also, you guys should do a field trip out to Montana because we've got Yogo sapphires and you can pan for garnets and stuff too. So we've got plenty to do in the state.
This is Mike. I'm satisfied with my question and getting answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, of course. Yeah, look up if you're interested in dinosaur soft tissue, look up B-Rex. B-Rex is one of the coolest. And again, first dinosaur found with soft tissue from Mary Schweitzer. Yay, thanks, Z. You love Montana. Awesome. Well, I hope to see you guys very, very soon. And if you do come by Museum of the Rockies, please let me know. My email is available if anyone has any other questions. And you can feel free to share that with everybody. So thank you so much.